So if I could have everyone's attention, if we can have everyone's attention. Okay, thank you so much. I'm delighted to welcome this session. You're in for a treat for the person moderating. Also, we have our governor here who also runs the National Governors Association, so we're very honored for both of them. I'm delighted to introduce Javier Soto, who runs the Denver Foundation. They are celebrating their 100th year this year, and he is the CEO of that organization. It's a community foundation that mobilizes resources to meet the needs of people in Metro Denver. Founded in 1925, the Denver Foundation harnesses philanthropy to build a future where all residents have the opportunity to prosper. Before joining the Denver Foundation in October of 2019, Javier spent 10 years as president and CEO of the Miami Foundation, where he led a period of significant growth and developed key initiatives, including Give Miami Day, which raised more than $200 million in 2012. Please join me in recommending and welcoming Javier Soto to the stage. Thank you so much.
Don't take my remarks, Carol.
Oh,
that would be a problem. Thank you all so much. Great to see you. Thank you for joining us for this conversation this afternoon. For those of you who are not familiar, Carol mentioned the Denver Foundation turns 100 this year, actually in November. We were founded in 1925, and during that time have become one of the leading community foundations in the country. We were the first community foundation here in Colorado and one of the first in the nation. If anybody in the room is from Cleveland, you have bragging rights. The first community foundation ever was started in Cleveland. So the longevity and impact of the Denver Foundation are a testament to our partners, our donors, our nonprofit partners, community and civic leaders that we work with every day and who rely on us to understand this community deeply, to understand the challenges, the aspirations, the needs of this community, and help meet those needs and the changing needs here today and throughout our history. We're here today because we share at the Foundation many of the same goals and strategies as our partners here today on the stage. We're a learning organization. We say that repeatedly. We're a learning organization, and we are rooted in equity and inclusion. We're also engaging in policy work to advance solutions and stronger communities, including to provide greater economic opportunity for everyone who calls Colorado home. We believe it's important to pair policy solutions with philanthropic grant making in order to drive real change. Today at the Foundation, there are a few focus areas that certainly overlap with a lot of the stuff you all have been talking about here for the last couple of days. Those include youth well-being, economic opportunity, and affordable housing. We deploy our permanent endowment, the Fund for Denver. That's how we were created, was as a permanent endowment. We deploy that to support those priority areas today and meet the needs of our community for the next 100 years as well. So over the past century, we've witnessed the power of partnership, and it's driven and motivated so much of our work. Today, from partnerships with large corporations like Kaiser Permanente and First Bank, to collaborations with our governor and Mile High United Way to meet emergency needs of the community when there's a wildfire in our state or other emergency response situations, we partner with the governor, we partner with our state, we partner with our Mile High United Way and so many other philanthropic organizations to meet that moment. We also partner with our city of Denver quite intentionally and Mayor Johnston, particularly around initiatives like meeting our housing needs or providing legal support services to our immigrant neighbors here in Metro Denver. We do all this in order to meet the community's needs through a perspective that takes in every angle and brings as many partners together around the table as possible. So while we celebrate 100 years of impact, we remain focused on the needs and challenges of the next century. And I know that next year, as our country celebrates the 250th anniversary, I know there's a word for that, but I can't say it, but the 250th, maybe somebody here does, the 250th anniversary of our nation and our democracy. We're honored to partner again with GlobalMindED next year and their important convening around celebrating that milestone. So I'm hopeful that all of the things that we're doing today will result in better preparing us at the foundation and this entire community to meet those challenges of tomorrow. And we're going to talk about some of those challenges. There certainly are quite a few in the air these days. And also focus on potential solutions with our panel here in just a moment. So before I do that, I'd love to introduce to you our governor. Governor Jared Polis is a visionary leader here in Colorado, but also a national force as the chair of the National Governors Association. His long history of entrepreneurial leadership, investing, community organizing, and public service make him one of Colorado's most consequential leaders in our history. The governor is the architect of the newly announced plan and title of this session, Reimagining the Future of Talent Development, Pre-K, K-12, HED, and Workforce Learning to Earning. Please welcome our governor, Jared Polis.
Happy birthday, Denver Foundation. Javier, you don't look a day over 29, so I would never believe a century old. Congratulations. As you know, our state will soon be celebrating in 2026 our 150th anniversary, our sesquicentennial for the Latin aficionados out there. And of course, it's the same time as our nation's 250th birthday. So we're kind of like in Colorado, we're the kid with the Christmas birthday. We want to make sure that we still celebrate our birthday, even though it's a big national celebration of 250, and we do have a lot of great things to celebrate across our state. Welcome to Colorado. For those who are visiting, for my fellow Coloradans, great to see you in many cases again. Thank you to GlobalMindED for bringing together so many thought leaders and people on the ground doing the work across the country, really developing the employment pipeline that drives opportunity and economic mobility, and fundamentally, even more than that, hope for so many families and so many individuals. That promise this country offers of the American dream and working hard to get ahead is very real today, but it becomes real through your work, making sure people know about the different opportunities and ways that they can get the skills and knowledge to hold good jobs, earn a good living, and an upwardly mobile professional career. In Colorado, we're really all hands on deck to address the workforce challenges of today and tomorrow, connecting Coloradans with the skills needed to get good jobs, building a strong workforce and economy now and for the future. It takes all of us working together and innovating. We call it the Colorado way, to build a more prosperous future full of opportunity and hope for every American. We're focused on every stage, from classroom to career, from birth through aging, to drive opportunity for Coloradans. We implemented free full-day preschool and kindergarten for every family in my first term. Took Colorado from 28th in preschool enrollment to 3rd in preschool enrollment. And in doing so, of course, we want to make sure every child is prepared to be a learner and to enter at grade level and achieve. But it also is an important workforce benefit today for parents in terms of saving $6,000, having a second parent be able to re-enter the workforce sooner. Obviously great for single parents who might have a grandparent as a part-time caregiver. So really of great benefit to today's workforce and tomorrow's workforce. We're excited about our talented workforce in Colorado at all levels. But to keep up with demands of the economy, we need to make sure there's more opportunities for everyone to continue learning and evolving over the course of their career. At the state level, as an example, our state of Colorado, we have about 32,000 employees. We're one of the larger employers in the state. And we know that the actions the state takes as an employer of choice is a signal to the private sector. And we're trying to do that in word and in deed. For instance, I cited an executive order that now makes skills-based hiring the big part of our state hiring practice. We're now at a majority of positions. We're going to be over 80% very soon of postings no longer ask about or care about how you got your skills, whether it's college, the military, as a home worker, as an entrepreneur. We value those skills, and we want you to be part of our family. And there's many Colorado companies, again, particularly in tech, that are leading the way as well in skills-based hiring, valuing what you know and what you can do rather than how you got that knowledge. Our work to help bring more Coloradans success by being workforce ready extends into several major policy initiatives that we're pursuing. We're rapidly expanding and scaling our apprenticeship ecosystem, allowing people to earn while they learn. Focus, of course, high schoolers, but also all age learners, college and beyond, and even earlier. We made training and education free for many in-demand jobs in healthcare through our Care Forward initiative, and now we've made a community college degree free for every student from a family making under $90,000 in the state of Colorado. And really, we need to remove those economic barriers to achievement and success. And we also have to acknowledge there are more than just economic barriers. Now, the economic one, really hard to get past if you can't afford it, but there are more than just economic. There are social barriers, there are logistical barriers, right? Your work day, can you take classes at night? You work nights, can you take them in the day? How does it fit in childcare? So there's logistical, there's social and cultural barriers, but of course you have to address the economic barriers first, because even if you solve cultural and social barriers, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. So really in tandem through our Department of Higher Ed, our great leader, Dr. Angie Piccioni, is with us here today. We're leading the way in that work. We're also excited about promoting economic mobility and skill development. Just a few weeks ago, I directed our state agencies to streamline workforce development and activities, because a lot of this, probably the same is true in your states, it occurs in several different agencies, right? We have our Office of Economic Development and International Trade. We have our, of course, Department of Higher Ed. We have our Department of Labor and Employment. You have different configurations of these. We have something called Department of Regulatory Affairs. They oversee the different professions and how they're certified. So we said, hey, that's great. It's hard to reshuffle, the government. We want to make sure it's customer focused. How do we get them all on the same page? Because for an individual learner, they don't really care or even know which department they're working with. They just care, what is my pathway, right? Maybe it's a DORA certification, a higher ed accredited program with support from a local workforce center. Doesn't matter to the learner. How do we assemble behind the scenes to provide a more efficient, lower cost, higher quality experience for learners? And we are challenging our agencies to move rapidly forward in that, in sorting out the behind-the-scenes work and leveraging each agency's expertise, resources to best position our state to meet learners and earners where they are. We use the buzzwords relevant and connected as they build towards a good job and a career. And that's exactly what we're doing. Now, I also wear the hat, I think it was mentioned by Carol, I'm chair of the Bipartisan National Governors Association. And my chair initiative is Let's Get Ready, Educating All Americans for Success, closely looking at how we best measure what skills and knowledge are needed to thrive in school and life, in careers, and how we can invest and scale what works, and of course, just as importantly, identify and change or eliminate what doesn't work, what is not leading to better outcome for students. So we're really looking at innovative efforts around schools that allow students to, for instance, earn college credit, degrees, career certification while they're in high school, making classes more engaging, aligning academic coursework with the needs of today's and tomorrow's workforce. We want to give students a head start, whether they go on to formal higher education or directly into the workforce. And the best practices we're putting together will be a roadmap for governors at the state level to lead, especially as the federal government sadly shrinks from national competitiveness, right? I was all about, us being competitive as a nation. I wish we had a national strategy around competitiveness and workforce. Doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon, right? So they're shrinking back. That leaves a void. And they weren't doing a great job in the first place, by the way, but that leaves a void for the states to fill, to say we are leading for workforce, we are competing, collaborating in a good way, competing with other states. We want this to be a competitive advantage for Colorado. I know you all want this to be a competitive advantage for your states. Let's learn from one another and really up the bar on educating all Americans for success. And when we say let's get ready, we mean, of course, let's get ready for success for the individual learner. How can the individual learner from every background, from every geography, rural, urban, have the opportunity, first generation, 15th generation, have the opportunity to succeed? But we also mean let's get ready for success for our economy, because that collective work around individual learners being able to have the skills needed for today's and tomorrow's workforce spells economic success for our states and for our country. And that also drives the importance of this work. We have huge opportunities to lead with data and innovation, and by coming together, we can challenge what it means to be prepared to exceed, come up with meaningful metrics and indicators so the providers and others are accountable for the success of students. Thank you for your dedication to this work. I also hope that those who are visiting enjoy your time in a beautiful state. Please get out, enjoy our beautiful mountains, our cultural experiences here in Denver while you are in our great state of Colorado. Thank you all, and wish you well in your deliberations. What a great panel. And we're also joined by Karen Chong from the AARP, Greg Robinson, Webb Space Telescope Program Director. I told him, we built part of it here. He knew all about that at Ball. And of course, Dr. Filomena Montella, the president of Grand Valley State University. As Dr. Piccioni knows, we have a Grand Valley here. She comes from some other Grand Valley, but also very important work as well. With that, I'll turn it back over to Javier Soto.
All right, thank you, Governor Polis. And if any of you from out of state are feeling governor envy, we understand, we get it. We're very, very proud of our governor. You can't have him, though. So the governor mentioned our panelists, but I wonder if we might start maybe by just asking each of you to just briefly introduce yourselves and just give us a little more background on what you do.
So let me first thank the governor as well before he leaves the room. I think that the initiatives here in Colorado are really taking a leadership role. I also want to thank my governor, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who's also taking a leadership role on national competitiveness. So it's just great to see the energy coming out of the states. I'd like to thank Carol Carter. Carol, your energy is amazing. Could we just give her a round of applause? She makes this happen. I don't know how she does the bougaboo she does, but it's pretty awesome. So thank you, Carol, for your leadership. So Philly Mantella, I at Grand Valley State University, which is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It is the third largest university in the state of Michigan. It is a growing segment of our state that's metrics look very different than the state as a whole. So there's a lot of attention on what's happening, and I like to think that Grand Valley is a very big part of that ecosystem. My personal story is one of a first-generation college student trying to find their way from rural upstate New York into college, into career, and I think a lot of people in my high school probably look at me now and say, God, she was the last person we would have thought would have been university president. So those of you out there, you young people, who are questioning whether you can get it done, you can get it done. There's no question. So thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Greg Robinson. I think this is my third year here. The first year I say Carol tricked me into coming, but I keep coming back, so that means I like it. So she doesn't have to trick me anymore because of you guys. So I do appreciate being here, and I appreciate you tricking me that first time. So I had a 33-year career with NASA. I retired about 3 years ago, and I'm still about 90% retired. I've worked numerous satellite missions over the years. I've worked a shuttle program from after Columbia to the end. A lot of research and technology development across the agency, across the country, and the world. And my last job at NASA was director of the James Webb Space Telescope. Some of you know that already. And so you can go on YouTube. It's hard to keep up with all the images because it's so fast, it's so good, they just keep cranking them out. But a recent discovery was, so we're trying to look back at the beginning of the universe, 13.8-ish billion years ago. So we want to look beyond 13.5 billion years, and recently we had a discovery in a galaxy 290 million years after the Big Bang. That's still a long time, but when you're talking billions, it's a big deal. And then just before that, I would say, these are Greg's words, signs of life on a planet in a different galaxy as well. That's many light years away. So one thing I'll talk a little bit about later, in that 10% of non-retirement, I do some consulting with companies, and one company in particular is building a quantum computer. And I can tell you, I know nothing about building a quantum computer. Smart as you think I am, I know nothing about that. But they said they would teach me everything I needed to know, but they wanted my system engineering skills, my leadership skills, organizational performance, etc. Some of that's technical and some of it is not. And then I'll talk more about that later. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Karen Chong. I'm the Vice President of Audience Strategy for Age Inclusion from AARP. I have both governor envy and also NASA space envy right now. I'm having a little, starstruck moment because, that's just, it's fascinating. I went to summer camp at Goddard, so there's a whole backstory there. I'm here from AARP, and, you may be thinking AARP, that's for, your grandparents or the magazine you see at the dentist's office. But what I want to stress is that what we really do is we advocate for what is most important for the 100 million Americans who are 50 plus and their families. And that means, people in your family, people that you work with, people that you go to school with. It is, we want people to be thoughtful and open to what it really means to be different ages and different life stages, and to realize that, there's such a rich opportunity in the inclusivity around age. And so we do, that's part of why we're here to talk about that, because of course, even as people are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, they continue to work, and they are a vital and important part of that workforce. And so that's why we are here to have this conversation.
Great, so let's get started. Let's just start with the title of this session, Reimagining the Future of Talent Development. I'll ask each of you to just reflect on first why our ability to reimagine is so important in this moment, and then maybe just focus in on some of the strategies that you each are focused on in your own individual organizations and line of work. I'll start maybe with you.
Sure, thank you. I want you to have Grand Valley envy too, though, okay? Because you have governor envy and NASA envy, so Grand Valley envy fits. It is just, it couldn't be more important. I think that the number of disruptions that we're facing, the speed of technology, the introduction of AI, the emergence of new fields, the opportunities, and even the challenges we faced with learning gaps coming out of the pandemic. Fundamentally, our educational system is not aligned with the needs of the future. And I think, as the governor commented on ways to integrate work and learning, ways to think about work as learning, ways to build foundations, fundamentally we have an industrial model in a time that is a knowledge economy, digitally driven time, with different speeds and tempo in the way an education system can move and the way the market moves, and with not a full appreciation for the fact that the knowledge we can impart, whether you're at a community college, a K-12 system, or a university, there is so much more opportunity today to garner knowledge, and that our role around knowledge has to change to understand the veracity of it, to contextualize it. Education has a place, a critically important place, but not doing it the way it's always been done. And so in order to meet the competitiveness needs, the talent needs, the disruption, we have to have changes that look at many, many models, not one model, that can speak to many, many markets, from those that are retired to those that are young, to those that don't want to take a break for education. We have to have multiple models, and we have to figure out a way to speed up our learning. So I'm really compelled by that call to action. And I'm at a university that started 65 years ago with a community coming together with their own philanthropy to invest in having a university engine as a part of their ecosystem, and went to the state and petitioned for that and understood the importance of that. And it works, I will have an opportunity to share, I'm sure, it works very differently than institutions that are apart from or siloed from the workforce. And so it's what brought me to Grand Valley, so that it's the platform for the future in some ways, and the context that I described really inspires me, and I think others, to innovate at this moment.
So I think we do need some enhancements in our education system. By the way, at dinner last night, I think we had about a 2-hour panel, so I'm going to repeat some stuff I heard last night from people much smarter than me. And it was nice hearing you guys on panels today. I'll tell you, I think we're in good hands. I don't sweat one bit. Now, with that said, I do think whether we're in the digital age or not, we teach kids to take tests, and we're not teaching them to learn. So I think we have to change the paradigm and allow them to be creative, allow their curiosity to grow, to nurture it. So I talk to a lot of groups, and from brownies to elementary schools, all the way up to high school, and a lot of colleges. And every time I leave, I said, man, we're in great hands in the future. If we can get some of these other people out of the way, I think that's the challenge. It's not the kids. In most cases, the teachers are doing a great job. They teach to learn, but the system says you have to teach these tests for them to take the test. And so we beat the innovation, the curiosity out of them. And just a couple other stories. I mentioned brownies. I was talking to some brownies a few years ago, and they asking me all these questions. Some of them I couldn't answer. I don't know what the age of brownies are, but they're before they become Girl Scouts. But so they really understand a lot of things that are going on in the world around them. And a couple of years ago, I was talking to elementary school, and I'm so proud. I'm showing an image of the Webb took in our solar system of Neptune with the rings around it. You know, we grew up learning about Saturn rings, and I'm so proud. I'm showing. So in the Q&A, a little fourth grader raises his hands, and he said, well, you didn't mention the rings around the other planets. He said, all the gas giants in our solar system have rings. And I'm stunned here, right? This is a fourth grader. So I met him afterwards, and he showed me, he watches astrophysics videos all day long. Who would do that in the fourth grade, right? So there's a curiosity there. And my last story before I pass the mic, but I'm gonna have a lot more later. So I have 3 grandsons. They're twins, 6, just turned 6, and 7-year-old brother. And they spend a lot of time on their tablets following the weather. And they've learned what the different patterns mean and where the data is coming from. Their pa didn't teach them that, I can tell you that right now. But they know this stuff. They're learning at a rapid pace. I didn't know any of this stuff when I was growing up. And I've done many college graduations in the past few years, and I'm just stunned every time I leave a campus. So I think we're in good hands. I think we should pump the brakes on the scare a little bit. They're learning these new technologies, new systems as they grow. They come out of the womb learning this stuff. We're scared because we're not learning at the same pace. So I think we're in pretty good shape if we can stop beating the innovation out of them.
Yeah, and I'll just build on some of the themes that have already been put out there. I think for us, we really do think about education as evolving. For us, when we think about people throughout their entire careers, throughout their entire lives, it's changing, right? Like, I think we used to call them non-traditional students, but what we're really seeing is people going back to school because people are building portfolio lives. It used to be the classic, you go to school, you get a job, you stay there for 40 years, get a gold watch, retire. That's not the case anymore. People just had a fascinating conversation with someone talking about having been, a pro basketball player and a legislator and and as a professor. Those things don't track in a linear fashion, right? And in between those places could be pit stops to go back to school, take certifications, get graduate degrees. I think one of the things that we really think about deeply is the fact that if we want to support people throughout their entire lifespan, and thinking about how we look at work, you have to have those opportunities. And in those opportunities are opportunities for innovation. Sometimes you bring people of different backgrounds and life stages and ages together to have that innovative thinking in the education system, and that's when you spark real innovation. And so for us, we really think about the opportunities that open up when we think collectively about what the evolution is, not staying with the old models that maybe worked at one point, but now need to evolve with AI and everything else that's happening.
Thank you all very much. Greg, I want to come back to you. First, I'll tell you, so my daughter just graduated from Brownie to junior. So I know all about the brownies. By the way, she wasn't super psyched only because she says she likes the brown vest better than the green one. But other than that, she's excited. And I went to some of the outings that they did, and I, similar to you, was just really struck by how smart the questions were. When we would drive back home, my daughter might ask something like, "Dad, did you know that, what they just said, whatever?" I, of course, said, yeah, of course I knew that. No idea whatsoever. But the focus on STEM, in particular with the brownies, is something that I think can make all of us hopeful. You have such a unique perspective, particularly around STEM, leading the work that you did with the James Webb Telescope. So I'm wondering what your impressions are with regards to the current talent pipeline, and what you see taking shape in the future for talent development so that we can continue to be out there on the cutting edge with incredible innovations like the Webb Project.
So I think the right, for the most part, the right type of teaching is occurring, other than what I mentioned earlier, at the different levels. We need to expand access at the different levels, all the way through college and early career. Many years ago, I used to judge science fairs, and I forget what age science fairs were back then. And this was when some kids had computers, some kids didn't, in some places that's still the case. And a lot of my peers judging would always give great scores to the kids who had the fancy graphs and things, and they typed up everything. But in some cases, you also interviewed the kid. And some of them who didn't have all the fancy stuff could really explain every detail, and they were so energetic, and I would always give them high scores. They deserved it, right? And the peers would push back on me. And they had the wrong guy in the first place, but that's another whole story. But I think we have to make sure everyone has access to the tools, as we talk AI and other things in the future, have access to the tools, have access to the data, and nurture them and let those young minds run, and even the older minds, let them run. I teach a class at Columbia University, leading large complex projects, and hopefully there's no administration from Columbia here. They try to tell me how to teach my class on whether to use AI tools or not in my class. I don't care what they use, by the way. I can tell if it's not authentic. But as long as they're learning, as long as they're giving me back what I need, doing some critical thinking, but the university is pushing something different. So again, I think we have to take some of the bureaucracy out of the system, so at all levels, we can teach people to actually learn, to be curious, and not kill them when they fail. So my last story here, one of the corporate boards I'm on, I'm trying to get them to do more portfolio technology, innovation type management. And one of the leaders said, well, every time we try this, we fund people for a few months and they don't come back with anything. So, we never get incorporated in the thing. I said, well, that's great. I want to see all of this stuff, right? Because if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough, you don't have the right curious minds working on things. So we should encourage failure. You have to manage it. It's not everything you want to fail. We have to encourage failure because you learn from it. You can recycle very fast and start producing better results.
Thank you. Karen, I'm going to come to you. Go ahead and take your sip. So I really appreciated your reflection around folks coming back to school in particular, mid or even later career. I'll just share a personal anecdote. During COVID, when I was cooped up in my basement on Zoom all day, I started taking classes online at the University of Colorado, Denver, and just last December graduated with a master's degree in sociology from the University of Colorado, Denver. Thank you. That was 30 years since I had graduated from law school. And it was a fascinating experience. Those first couple of classes, even like understanding how you got assignments, like everything was online. It was just it blew my mind, having, again, been 30 years out of the academic setting. So I'd love for you to just reflect on, folks like that and others who you all focus on at AARP. Like, what are the talent plans that the organization has to reimagine that thriving, multi-generational employment future and academic future?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So again, applaud you for having done that, because that's fantastic. I say that mostly because I can't imagine, being in the pandemic and going back to school. That's quite the undertaking. Yeah, for us, we really think about the fact that what we have currently is a historic 5 generations in the workforce. And that is a wide span of people of different backgrounds, ages, perspectives, identities. It's a different workforce than we've ever had historically.